Welcome to the Cenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something, fundamental to the human experience. Personality. We all have our traits, right? The quirks that make us who we are. But this deep dive goes a bit further. We're focusing on those long-lasting, often quite rigid patterns of behavior and emotion.
Yeah, the ones that really stick.
Exactly. And when they significantly deviate from, what society expects, they can make navigating daily life, work, and especially close relationships really challenging.
Incredibly so.
So our mission today is to cut through some of the jargon. We're going to quickly review the three main expert groupings for these patterns.
The clusters, yeah.
Then analyze the deep roots, genetics, environment, all that.
What contributes to them developing?
And most importantly, talk about the vital modern shift in how professionals actually diagnose and treat them now.
Okay, so to jump right in, the key phrase here really is enduring patterns. We're looking at ways of thinking, feeling, acting that are pretty fixed, often inflexible.
Not just a bad day then.
Definitely not. These patterns affect how someone manages stress, how they regulate intense emotions, or how they form stable bonds with others. And what's often missed, I think, is that these internal struggles, the frustration, the distress, those repeated relationship issues, they can exist even for people who seem really successful on the outside.
Yeah, it's not always visible.
It's pervasive, not just situational. The struggle is sort of constant.
That's where the structure helps, I suppose. To understand the landscape, experts tend to categorize these patterns into three general clusters. Think of them as sharing a kind of central emotional or behavioral flavor, even though the specific patterns within each cluster are unique.
Exactly. So we start with cluster A. This one's often labeled as suspicious or socially withdrawn. The big themes here are distance, unusual thinking, and often a profound struggle with trust.
Okay, so within cluster A, we're dealing with patterns like paranoid traits. That's the persistent suspicion that others are out to harm or deceive you, even without real proof.
Precisely. A constant feeling of being watched or targeted. Then you have the schizoid pattern. This is characterized by, extreme emotional detachment, a real preference for solitude.
So they just aren't interested in social stuff.
Largely, yes. They aren't really motivated by social relationships or praise or even criticism. They can appear quite indifferent.
Interesting. And the third in this group?
That's the schizotypal pattern. This one often includes, let's say, unusual or strange beliefs, sometimes relating to magic, maybe feeling they have special insight.
A bit eccentric, perhaps.
It can seem that way. And it comes alongside uncomfortable social anxiety. They might avoid contact not just because they prefer being alone, but because they genuinely feel odd or judged in social settings. There's a fear there, too.
Okay, that covers the withdrawn and suspicious group. Cluster A. Now, let's shift gears quite sharply into Cluster B. This one brings the drama and intensity.
Oh, definitely. This cluster is defined by strong, often unpredictable emotions and impulsive behaviors. These frequently cause friction with others and, honestly, a lot of internal chaos for the person, too.
Right. So this is where we see some of the more, maybe, visible patterns.
You could say that. We see antisocial traits, for instance. This often involves things like lying, exploiting others, reckless actions, breaking rules or laws.
And not feeling bad about it.
Exactly. A distinct lack of guilt or remorse when harming someone. And we should note, the material points out these traits are more frequently reported in men, often leading to issues with the legal system.
Okay. Then we hit borderline personality disorder, or BPD. When describing this, we really have to talk about that core identity issue, don't we?
Absolutely. It's not just intense mood swings and that crushing fear of abandonment, though those are huge. It's also profound instability in their sense of self.
How they see themselves.
Yes, and how they see others. Opinions can violently flip. Someone goes from being idealized, like the best person ever, to intense anger and devaluation in a moment.
Well, it sounds exhausting.
It is. That constant emotional volatility makes stable relationships incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes.
And you mentioned gender reporting frequencies earlier.
Yes, similar to BPD, histrionic traits are often reported more frequently in women, according to the sources. This pattern is marked by excessive emotionality and a constant need for attention.
The center of attention.
They feel deeply uncomfortable when they aren't. They can often seem overly dramatic, maybe theatrical, and can be easily influenced by others or circumstances.
Okay, and the last one in this intense cluster.
narcissistic traits. What defines this pattern is that grandiose sense of self-importance, needing admiration, but it often masks incredibly fragile self-esteem underneath.
So the outward confidence isn't the whole story.
Not at all. They genuinely struggle to understand or empathize with others' feelings. Low empathy is key, and they can become deeply angry, even punitive, if they feel they haven't received the respect or special treatment they believe they absolutely deserve.
Right. Okay, that's cluster B intense.
Very. Which brings us to our final category, cluster C, anxious or fearful behavior. The engine driving this group is intense worry, deep insecurity, and an overwhelming fear of criticism, rejection, or being left alone.
Starting with avoidant personality disorder. These individuals, they actually want deep connection, don't they? But they're just paralyzed by the fear of being judged or embarrassed.
Exactly. The desire is there, it's strong, but the anticipated emotional cost of rejection is so terrifying, they simply avoid social situations altogether. It stops them from forming friendships, dating, putting themselves out there.
That sounds incredibly lonely.
It often is. Following that is dependent personality disorder. The core struggle here is genuine autonomy. They're defined by an excessive reliance on others for support, advice, decisions.
Like they can't function alone.
They feel they can't. They struggle fiercely to make even small decisions by themselves and become acutely anxious when isolated. This, unfortunately, often keeps them locked in unhealthy relationships because the thought of being alone feels completely intolerable.
Okay, and here's where we get to that really critical distinction lots of listeners ask about. Obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, or OCPD. We have to be crystal clear here. OCPD is not the same thing as obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD.
Absolutely not. It's a really common confusion, but they are fundamentally different. The key difference is what we call egosyntonic versus egodystonic.
Okay, break that down.
With OCPD, the individual generally sees their rigidity, the extreme focus on rules, schedules, perfectionism, control as helpful, correct, part of who they are. It feels right to them. Egosyntonic.
They don't necessarily see it as a problem.
Often not the core traits, no. Their difficulty lies in the consequences of that inflexibility. They struggle to finish tasks because it's never perfect or handle unexpected changes because it disrupts their control, but they generally don't have the specific, intrusive, distressing thoughts, obsessions, and repetitive behavioral rituals, compulsions, that define OCD.
Whereas OCD is distressing.
Yes, OCD symptoms are egodystonic. The person is distressed by the intrusive thoughts and feels compelled to perform rituals to alleviate anxiety, even if they recognize them as irrational. OCPD is a pervasive personality style. OCD is about specific distressing symptoms.
That shift from symptom-based distress in OCD to a control-based personality style in OCPD is a huge difference. Okay, so we've mapped out the clusters, the behaviors. The next natural question is, why? Why do these deeply rooted patterns take hold in the first place? What shapes them?
Yeah, it's complex. These are definitely not single cause conditions. They're shaped by a dynamic interaction, really a mix between inherent vulnerability and environment.
Nature and nurture, basically.
Pretty much. On the biological side, we look at family history and genetics.
Meaning if close family members, parents, siblings have long-term emotional or behavioral issues, there's maybe an inherited vulnerability, a predisposition that increases the likelihood of developing similar traits.
Correct. It's not destiny. It doesn't mean you will develop it, but it suggests a potential genetic loading, a vulnerability.
Okay, and the other side of the coin?
The environmental impact, particularly childhood trauma or neglect. Difficult early life experiences, things like abuse, an unstable home life, chronic emotional neglect can really interfere with the healthy development of trust, self-worth, and a coherent sense of identity.
The building blocks.
Exactly, the building blocks of personality stability. If those are disrupted early on, it can lay the groundwork for these enduring problematic patterns later.
So given these deep and complex roots genetics, early life diagnosing them can't just be a simple checklist, right? It goes far beyond noticing someone is a bit difficult or quirky. How do professionals actually identify these long-term patterns?
It's a thorough process. It usually starts traditionally with clinical interviews. These are detailed, in-depth discussions with a trained therapist about a person's entire life history, their emotions, how they interact with others across different situations.
Getting the full picture.
Yes. And this is often supplemented by standardized questionnaires. These give more objective data on how frequently certain traits show up across different areas of life, work, home, social life. It helps quantify things a bit.
But this brings us to something you mentioned earlier, the really interesting modern evolution in this field. Dimensional diagnosis. Now wait, isn't focusing on intensity just giving us more labels? How does this model actually change things for the person being assessed compared to the old system of strict categories?
Oh, that's the crucial point. It's actually a radical shift away from those hard categorical boxes like saying you are borderline or you are narcissistic. The dimensional model treats personality more like a spectrum.
Like a dimmer switch instead of an on-off switch.
That's a great analogy. Instead of just a label, the clinician assesses the intensity and the range of specific traits. So they might measure things like how dysfunctional are someone's relationship patterns on a scale? Or how poorly developed is their sense of self? Or how extreme is their negative affectivity?
Ah, so instead of saying you fit into box A, B, or C, it's looking at the specific ingredients and how much of each you have.
Precisely. It creates a much more detailed, highly personalized profile. The real goal here is moving the conversation away from simple labeling, which can feel reductive and, frankly, stigmatizing,
Yeah, definitely.
towards a more nuanced understanding of the individual's unique constellation of challenges. And that directly guides personalized treatment planning much more effectively. It's about understanding the person, not just assigning a category.
That makes so much sense. And it makes the leap into treatment seem much clearer, less like just managing a label.
Uh-huh.
So these patterns are deeply established, yes, but our collected materials overwhelmingly show that significant, really life-altering improvement is absolutely possible.
It really is, with consistent professional guidance.
So what's the modern standard for treatment then?
Well, the foundational approach is almost always talk therapy or psychotherapy. The focus is on identifying and restructuring those unhelpful thinking patterns and behaviors we talked about. But the gold standard, particularly for treating the intense emotional dysregulation we see in cluster B conditions like borderline personality disorder, is dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT.
DBT. What makes that so uniquely effective for those kinds of challenges?
DBT is very skills-based. It's practical. It teaches 4 core modules: mindfulness, being present in the moment; emotional regulation, understanding and managing intense feelings; interpersonal effectiveness, navigating relationships healthily; and distress tolerance, coping with crises without making things worse.
So it gives people concrete tools.
Exactly. It empowers the individual with practical skills to actually navigate emotional crises and stabilize their inner world, rather than just talking endlessly about past problems without knowing how to change the present.
Okay. Now, a common question that always comes up, medications.
Yeah.
Is there like a magic pill that can fix these personality challenges?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot. Unfortunately, no. Let's be really clear. There is no medication that cures the core personality condition itself. However, medication can be an absolutely invaluable tool for managing co-occurring symptoms. Things like severe depression, anxiety, chronic mood swings, or high impulsivity often run alongside the core personality issues. Medication helps manage those symptoms, which can make therapy more effective.
So it supports the therapy process.
Precisely. It helps stabilize things enough for the deeper work to happen. And finally, we cannot underestimate the indispensable role of support systems.
Yeah, that seems crucial.
Whether it's family involvement, educating the family, improving dynamics, or peer support groups, or group therapy, having a supportive system helps build trust, improve communication, and crucially, it reduces those profound feelings of isolation and loneliness that are so common across all 3 clusters. Connection matters hugely.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly hit a couple of common real-world questions people might have listening to this. First, comorbidity. You mentioned overlapping traits. Can someone actually show signs of multiple patterns at the same time?
Oh, definitely. It's extremely common for traits to overlap. Someone might exhibit characteristics from both, say, the avoidant pattern, that fear of rejection, and the dependent pattern, that fear of loneliness at the same time.
That sounds complicated.
It is. And that's actually another reason why the dimensional model we talked about is so helpful. It handles that messy reality of overlapping traits much better than trying to force someone into just one strict label.
Okay. And second, how do these long-term emotional patterns affect physical health? We focus so much on the mind, but does it leak into the body?
It absolutely does. Think about it. Chronic, long-term stress essentially wears down the physical body over time.
Like cortisol constantly pumping.
Exactly. That kind of sustained stress response Combine that with potentially poor coping strategies like substance use, maybe neglecting basic health needs like diet or sleep, and this translates to serious physical issues over time. We see links to high blood pressure, recurring stomach problems, lowered immune response. It's really a whole body issue.
That just underscores the relevance of creating positive external structures, too. How can supportive environments, maybe like schools or workplaces, help mitigate the impact of these patterns on someone's daily life?
They can make a huge difference. Things like actively promoting mental health awareness, making sure accessible counseling services are available, encouraging managers or teachers to be flexible with expectations where possible.
Reducing stigma as well.
Absolutely. Fostering open, respectful communication in these everyday spaces reduces stigma and can provide necessary stability for individuals who are otherwise grappling with a lot of internal chaos. It creates a safer container.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive, really unpacking patterns that shape lives in such profound ways. The summary seems clear. While these patterns are deeply rooted, often starting early in life, early recognition, getting the right diagnosis, maybe using that dimensional approach, and personalized, professional-guided treatment offer a concrete path toward greater stability, better relationships, and ultimately more fulfilling lives.
Absolutely. Improvement is genuinely possible. But reflecting on that shift to the dimensional model, there's one more thing that stands out from the material, particularly regarding gender and diagnosis.
Oh, about that.
Well, while some types like antisocial or borderline or histrionic are indeed reported or diagnosed more frequently in one gender versus the other.
Which we noted earlier.
Right. But the source material adds a crucial caution that social expectations and pre-existing societal biases may also affect who gets diagnosed. How we perceive certain behaviors might differ based on gender norms.
That's a really powerful point. Observation versus reality filtered through bias.
Exactly. So if we connect this to the bigger picture and that move away from rigid labels towards objective traits, it raises an important question, maybe something for you, the listener, to mull over. If the dimensional model is designed to objectively measure traits in their intensity, how effectively can it truly overcome those inherent societal biases that might still influence a clinician's initial perception or interpretation of long-term behavior, especially when comparing men and women? Can a system fully neutralize the biases of the people using it?
A fascinating challenge for the future of psychology and diagnosis indeed. Something to definitely think about. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure.
And we encourage you to continue exploring the complexities of mental wellness.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.